All right, guys. Hey, good morning. It's great out here. I really like this area. I found a hot spring right behind me. So those are not, you see it looks like bubbling. It is. It's bubbling because it's heated. It's a hot spring, a natural hot spring, which is really cool. So there's not drips dripping into that. It's kind of a neat place. All right. Well, I'm going to get started with chapter 4. And the last thing we heard was Kimba ruined the hunt for his tribe. He ruined it, and then he saw Rab and he ran away because Rab was really angry. This is not a game for them. This is life or death, and something really bad could happen to Kimba. Remember, there are no laws really for people who lived in as early humans. So they had their tribal customs and their tribal rules, but if the tribe wanted to kill Kimba, or hurt Kimba, or banish him and kick him out of the tribe, they very well could. So he just ran. He just ran away, and then he saw fallow deer. You remember that? Took out his spear. I'm going to get something so people will not be so angry at me if I come home with a big deer. And he jumped over to try to kill the deer, and the deer got out of the way, eluded him, and he slid down into kind of a natural trap, a hole, where he sees a bunch of bones of little animals, and up at the lip, at the top, there is a saber-toothed tiger. Okay, well, let's keep going and see how he gets out of this mess. Chapter 4. His spear was gone. All he could find to defend himself was the gleaming skull of a hyena. Kimba grabbed it and cocked his arm, ready to throw. He knew it would not stop a saber-tooth, but he could not just wait there empty-handed. The tiger's yellow eyes measured him. Its enormous fangs were bared. The beast was tormented by hunger, so it was really, really a hungry saber-tooth. Kimba could see. It was old and partially lame. Perhaps that was why it had been unable to bring down prey for so long. The boy realized it was willing to concern itself later with getting out of the crevice. First, it would eat. Okay, so it's lame, meaning it's got a limp. So it's limping. It's really, you can see his ribs. He's really hungry and he's very old. So I think that he's so famished, so starving that he'll jump down and eat Kimba first. Then he'll worry about how to get out of the pit, out of the hole. Suddenly he heard a new sound. The cat spun around, hissing, spitting. Something large and red, roaring ferociously, flashed into Kimba's vision. The tiger hopped backward, one foreleg slapping at its attacker. The other animal dodged, whipped its head, and bit savagely. Then it leaped aside, evading the tiger's two fangs. A wolf? Kimba thought. One of the biggest he had ever seen. It was fast and powerful, with a shaggy, red-speckled coat and blunt, heavy jaws. The tiger sprang, but the attacker swerved and took another nip. The tiger screamed in pain and fury. It was not a wolf, Kimba now saw. It was a wild dog. One of the marauding breed that his tribe feared as much as wolves or lions. The dog, with a booming growl, lunged and then dodged. The cat clawed at empty air, and the dog's teeth slashed the tiger's hind quarters. The saber-tooth twisted around, but the dog was out of reach again. Confused by the dog's speed, wounded and bleeding, the tiger hunched down. Its tail, swishing angrily, sent pebbles sprinkling onto Kimba. The tiger had no time to gather its wits. The attacker rushed in, feinted, veered, and tore off a chunk of shoulder flesh. As the big cat howled, the dog darted in once more. This time the tiger was not off guard. Its tawny forepaw caught the dog's midsection, raking it from spine to belly. The dog yelped and, in a sudden frenzy, vaulted onto the tiger's back. The saber-tooth shot sideways, squirming and squawking. Its massive head swung wildly as it tried to reach up and stab with its deadly fangs. But the dog bit deeply twice and leaped off out of range once more. its muzzle flecked with the tiger's blood. The dog growled steadily. The tiger snarled back, but in it was a whining note, not the chilling ferocity of a few moments before. Then, like a blazing red torch, the dog flew forward again. The tiger squealed, lashed out with its twin sabers, and missed. As the dog spun about, the cat, with a high-pitched scream, bolted. The dog pursued, snapping and growling. In seconds, all sounds of them had vanished. Kimba leaned limply against a wall of the crevice. He let the hyena skull fall from his hand. Why, he asked himself, had a wild dog taken on a saber-tooth like that? For food? The dog had not looked starved. A saber-tooth, even an old and somewhat infirm saber-tooth, would ordinarily be too much for any dog, no matter how fast and strong. Normally, a saber-tooth would be able to kill a dog or a wolf really easily. But this one was, the only reason it happened this way was the dog happened to be enormous and very vicious and in good health. And the saber-tooth was just really old and starving and weak from hunger and injured already. Could the dog have wanted Kimba as its own prey? Was it merely putting a rival to rout? And then it was back, Kimba gasped, looking up at the animal. Its large, smooth-muscled body seemed even redder in the light of the fast-dying sun. Kimba retrieved the hyena skull, never taking his eyes off the wild dog. The dog's tongue lolled, and it panted loudly from the exertion of battle. The claw marks along its side looked raw and ugly. Its eyes were brown and unblinking, expressionless as they fixed on Kimba. The boy had no idea how long the two of them stood there like this, staring. Suddenly the dog whirled and was gone. Kimba still did not move. He kept looking at the spot where the dog had stood. It had been a strange experience. Never had he imagined a look such as this passing between himself and one of the tribe's natural enemies. Soon it would be dark. He was still trapped in this cleft in the earth, but oddly, fear had left him after his confrontation with the red speckled dog. He knew he must find a way out, and quickly. His hand, exploring the face of the wall, froze at the sound of a soft footfall. Was Sabertooth again? Or had the strange wild dog come back? Rab's face peered down at him. Kimba! The boy could not believe it. Not after what he had done. Not after the way he had harmed the tribe. Rab, he said at last, come. Rab poked Kimba's spear down into the crevice. The boy grasped it, braced his feet against the wall, and began climbing. Rab's thick arms tightened as he pulled back on the spear. With a quick heave, Kimba was up and over the edge. Rab lifted him to his feet. He looked the boy over briskly to see if there were any serious injuries. Rab, Kimba began again. The hunter slapped the spear into Kimba's hands and without a word turned and strode off. Kimba watched, not moving. Rab wheeled. Come, he commanded. The boy trotted after him. Rab was alone, he saw, and he realized what this meant. The spearmaker, too, had broken the tribal rule never to travel alone. It was foolhardy of Rab to have followed his trail. It was never done. If someone wandered off or became too sick to continue the journey, the person was abandoned. It was not cruelty. The tribe simply could not spare anyone to care for those who could not or would not remain with it. It's like this, we're going to lose this one kid, but we can't lose, our hunters as they go try to rescue this kid. So they'd rather just say, no, we lose the kid, we lose Kimba, he dies. We can't lose any of our hunters because then we will all die. Stay with the tribe or perish. Perish meaning die. Stay with the tribe or perish. That was the rule. Kimba was hard put to keep up with Rab, but they must not be out long after dark. That would be the most foolhardy mistake of all. Kimba remembered the anger in Rab's face after he had chased away the one tusk. Rab could have slain him then and there, or at least banished him from the tribe. But Rab had defied the tribe to find Kimba and to save him. Rab's mouth, he saw, was set in a hard line. Perhaps the spear maker was scolding himself for his weakness. By all rights, the boy should have been left alone to suffer whatever fate awaited him. Now neither of them might ever see the tribe again. He would repay Rab, Kimba resolved. Remember that. He would repay for Rab saving his life. He would repay Rab, Kimba resolved. He would yet do something fine and good to show his gratitude. He would yet be the tribe's ablest hunter. Seldom did Rab say much, but he was often smiling. Now he was stony-faced in the gathering twilight. Kimba, on the verge of collapse, knew only in the most general sense where he was. It was all he could do to keep Rab in sight. They crossed the river at a sandbar. The water was up to Kimba's waist, but Rab did not look back to see if the boy was still behind him. When they reached the cave, Kimba did not realize it at first. It was merely another high bluff, another obstacle to go around. But Rab took him by the neck, pushing him forward, and Kimba realized they were home. To alert the lookout, Rab gave the tribe's special whistle, a staccato burst, like a night bird, followed by a long trailing off note. The two of them wound their way around the hearth. The wood fire was ashes now. No one stirred, but Kimba was sure that their late return had brought everyone to wakefulness. He looked into the cave's dark interior where Oddlag's family slept, and he knew his friend Tabak must be watching, wide-eyed and relieved. Then Erda, clutching the boy tightly, "Kimba," she whispered, and he noticed despite his fatigue that there was a quaver in her voice. She gently eased him into his fur blanket. In the moment before he fell into a deep sleep, he touched the wolf tooth hanging from his neck. Perhaps it had helped. The mutter of quarreling voices woke him. Light was streaming into the cave. His body still ached from the rigors of the day before. Kimba yawned and stretched. Sleep was hard to shake from his system this morning, which was why it took him so long to listen to what the voices were saying. "His power is bad. He must go." The boy sat upright. Were they talking of him? No, it was Rab. "He has good power. He will stay. He must go. He must go." Kimba slipped over to the wall which separated their sleeping area from the rest of the cave. He peered around. The tribe had formed a semicircle around Rab and Erda. Many were shouting. Others waved their arms. So jumbled was the noise, like the loud buzzing of infuriated hornets, that Kimba could discern only occasional words. "We have no meat. He is to blame. He let the one tusk escape. His power is bad. It will harm us all. He is not of the tribe. He is different. He must go." Others took up the cry. It became a chant. "He must go. He must go. He must go." "No!" Rab's voice cut through the din. "No! He will stay." "He is young," Erda joined in. "He has much to learn. He will bring us good power someday." "His power is bad. He must go." "He will stay." Rab took a fighting stance, leveling his spear. "I say he will stay." Kimba saw Mrodag, his former companion, in front of the circle. His voice was among the loudest. Horrified, Kimba shrank back. They wanted to banish him, his people, the tribe he looked upon as his own. "He must go," the other hunters pushed in closer. The older men and women on the fringe, Kimba noticed, had joined in the chant too. "He must go, he must go, he will stay." "We will watch him," Erda pleaded. "It will not happen again." "He must go, he will stay," Rab insisted. Not only had he given them reason to cast him out, Kimba realized, but now he had caused Rab to be pitted against his own kin. Rab had saved Kimba. In return, Kimba had given him only misfortune. Better that Rab had not found him. Better that the saber-tooth had gotten him. He had not cried facing the one tusk, facing the saber-tooth. Now tears trickled down his cheeks. No one must see them. A hunter did not weep. Kind of like Philip in a way. Remember when Philip would cry, being blind, being lost? It's similar now. Kimba's going through a very tough time too, knowing that his tribe wants to kick him out and he'll die on his own. Hugging the cold limestone wall, Kimba slipped away from the front of the cave. The men and women, engrossed in their heated argument, did not see him. The passage turned and Kimba walked faster. He's going deeper, deeper into the cave. They must not find him weeping. That was all he knew. They might banish him, but they would not see his tears. He must bring himself to act like a man and a hunter. It was dark now, and the cave floor was uncluttered. Members of the tribe lived near the entranceway. They seldom ventured far into the cavern. Very rarely did they go deep into the cave. The passageway narrowed and assumed the shape of a coiling serpent, but Kimba knew every twist of it. Many hundreds of times he had come this way with Utrecht, for Utrecht's domain was deep within the cave. There he practiced the most mysterious of his arts. Kimba felt the coldness and the darkness as a comfort. Here he could find refuge, briefly at least, a place where he can, like sanctuary, a place where he can rest and not be attacked and not feel awful. But he remembered his first trip in this far into the interior when he was made Utrecht's apprentice. Then it had prompted only fear in him, the stillness, the obscurity, the never-ending chill. Even now, at times, it made him uneasy, but he would never dare admit this. The tunnel widened into a high-ceiling gallery that the sorcerer had covered with paintings. So there's paintings all along the walls in this cave. Each of them Kimba knew intimately. He had held the torch, a flat piece of rock with a wick and a lump of grease, and mixed the ochre clay powders to produce colors ranging from bright yellow to vermilion red. All the while, he had watched Utrecht's every move. Other paintings he had studied alone, observing each line, tracing them with his fingers, soaking in the knowledge that he must have when someday he filled Utrecht's role. True, he did not wish to become like Utrecht, but the paintings had a quality that enthralled him, that always caught him in a snare of wonder. It's like, who can do this? Who can paint? I mean, and by the way, scientists earlier in this century, when they found these caves, didn't believe they were painted by early humans. They didn't believe they were painted by quote unquote cavemen. He had no torch now, but enough light entered through several tiny slits in the high ceiling to illuminate the marvels upon the walls. Here was a mighty one. In livid red, its humped head lowered, its massive legs slanted as though it were charging. The painting was larger than the tallest member of the tribe. Kimba fingered the long tusks and shuddered, recalling yesterday and the sound of the mammoth bearing down on him from behind. Nearby was a bison, boldly drawn, complete to the bushy fur on its back and the hair beneath its muzzle. It was so real that Kimba could almost catch the animal's pungent scent. He wandered on among the pictures. They were like old friends, while out there in the world of sunlight, those he had thought of as friends might now be preparing to expel him from their midst. Here was a stag's head, and beside it a sturdily built horse, its mane outflung, and then a woolly rhinoceros, ponderous and threatening, and an oryx, an ibex, a panther. All were painted with sure, masterly strokes. Utrecht's bony finger would dance over the wall. He would first use his feather brush, then switch to tufts of fur for certain effects. And in mere moments, Kimba remembered the animal would seem to come to life. There had been time to put many paintings on the walls. The tribe had wintered in the cave as long as Kimba had been with it, and for long before that. He walked on through another tunnel, It was very narrow, and the light had faded. The passage dipped, and his feet splashed through a frosty puddle formed by the continual dripping from the ceiling. Beyond it was the grotto, the largest of the rooms in the cave. This was where Utrecht performed his most elaborate rites. Most hunters entered it only half a dozen times a year, about 6 times a year, beginning with their initiation into manhood. No woman had ever entered it. Because their visits were rare, few of the hunters ever got over their awe of the vast echoing chamber. Kimba stepped into it, guiding himself more by memory than sight. The grotto was almost completely black. Torches had been used when he and Utrecht worked here, and when rites were held. These walls, too, were covered by paintings. Though Kimba could see none of them now, he could go unerringly to any part of the chamber and touch the wall and name the animal reproduced there. Here was another mighty one, he knew, feeling a knobby area above his head. Utrecht had used that natural swelling to represent the mammoth's forehead. It showed the hump of the head thick with fat, as it was in the autumn, the fat that enabled the mighty one to live on less food during the season of cold and blizzard. Utrecht had constructed the rest of the painting around this bulge. Kimba rubbed the dampness where he knew the tusks were drawn. Somehow he would still succeed in hunting the mighty ones, he told himself. He would yet make the tribe proud of him. But how could he if they would not permit him to stay with them? He must return. He could not let Rab continue to be denounced for his own foolish actions. He must face the tribe. The tears had long since ceased, and it was not the way of a hunter to cower and hide. He needs to go out there and say, enough, don't beat up on Rab and Erd anymore. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to face you. But in the darkness, he felt protected. Surrounded by the animals of the grotto, he felt safe. Sighing, he stepped back toward the entrance to the grotto. The blackness suddenly erupted in a bright shaft of light. Kimba whirled. A form moved toward him, shimmering a whitish green. It had wide-spreading antlers, outthrust claws, a long and flaring tail. Its face was bestial, but it walked on 2 feet. They call those cliffhangers, so we will get to find out what on earth that creature is the next time we read, okay? So, I'm actually getting a little warm over here by this. This steam is kind of warm, and I'm going to go. I don't know. There's a pool back there. I might go soak in it. We'll see. All right, you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great time, a great day, and a great. If it's a weekend, enjoy the weekend. And we will be back here next time. All right. We'll see you next chapter. Take care and bye-bye.